In 1972, I was in the middle of Greece with my parents, and Dad had managed to negotiate the country roads into the middle of nowhere, a place called Meteora, which is simply in Greek meteors. And it happened to be the vigil of the 6th of August when we got there. We pitched our tent, literally, and the following day was a Sunday. And I asked if there was any Catholic Mass around, and there wasn't, so I went to what was there. The Eastern Orthodox liturgy, the Divine Liturgy, 3 hours. And then, having been greatly edified and entered into a different world, indeed something of Tabor, for one has time to go into mode in 3 hours of incense, intoxication, chant and mystery, which has its power over every open soul. I climbed for a long time, and here is where I got to. Now, the rock formation are precisely the meteors in question. They've always been there, and as you know from your Celtic history, the monks of old sought out places of separation from hustle and bustle, and human beings in general. In Ireland, it meant going to the extremes of Skellig Michael, which meant 5 hours of heavy rowing, and if you're lucky getting there, you might not get there in one piece. So you wouldn't be back in a hurry. You were there for 50 years at a time. Also, the various mountains and quiet places of Ireland, as indeed in Wales, all bear testimony to the desire for solitude and Tabor. Now, as I climbed this mountain, one verse was going through my head on that Sunday morning. It was the verse precisely linked with the feast, the 6th of August. And he led them to a very high mountain apart. Some years ago, I was actually on that very high mountain, apart on Mount Tabor itself. And I noticed that there was a plaque as I came into the part of the Franciscan church, because there are 2 churches there, 2 monasteries. One is the Eastern Orthodox one, and the other is the ancient Franciscan one. And we happened to be there when the Angelus was going out, and the bells were ringing, boing, 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 as though time would stand still and remind us that we're here as ants crawling for a short moment and going into that mystery, the real whole of mankind. And the plaque said this: tradition has it that 2 things happened on this holy mount. One is precisely the Transfiguration, and the other is what happened at the end of the whole Easter cycle. There's therefore a reason why this Gospel comes in the heart of Lent. It talks about the exodus that the Lord had to accomplish, the going out, exodos. And what happened is this: after the cosmic victory for which these 3 disciples had been prepared, because they could get depressed, and we know actually that some did, when apparent failure came in at the crucifixion. Remember Simon Peter? I'm going fishing. He went back to his comfort zone. What did they say? We're coming with you. It could have ended there. And yet, Simon Peter was one of the 3 who saw this and had to keep it secret. So therefore, this other thing happened when it was all over, and when the 40 days also were all over. It would seem that the commissioning took place there. All authority in heaven and on earth has been committed to me. Go therefore. Now there were only 11, remember. That seems a tall order. The whole world. And yet, one man with God is a majority. So, those three, had a déjà vu when it came to climbing that mountain again. They knew where to go, the Lord had given them a rendezvous, and those three at least knew where it meant. Can you imagine the feeling? The goose pimples. Do you think that they didn't forget? Remember now, what they saw was so overwhelming that Simon Peter didn't know what to say. But he liked the feeling. Let's stay here. He wanted to stay there and make 3 booths to keep them there. Now I want to zoom into this for a moment because there are 2 things happening there. One is the fact that the Lord didn't just come in like that, but took them apart to a favourable place. And he might also drop the same hint to each one here. Am I preparing that encounter? Am I giving the space? Am I actually coming out of my day-to-day? Is there a moment when the Lord can get in? Because what happens? They are told to listen to him. Listen to him. How can a soul listen to him when all the time is listening to something else? And what proportion of the life of holy souls on this side of eternity is going into a screen? Well, a screen impedes listening. It sucks in the soul. One is plugged into other souls and the energy is coming out of other souls. Oftentimes, souls one doesn't know. It's not a good encounter. They are carrying demons. And so, the Lord is asking us, especially in Lent, to prepare a place where that can happen. Within the 24 hours. If we don't care. We don't care about the quality of our soul. We don't care about the quality of our time. And therefore we don't really care about the quality of our eternity either. Because merit comes back, and so does its absence. And I was reading in the Purgatory manuscript how many souls have to start at 0 if they get to purgatory at all. No work has been done of preparation. And if that was the case in the 1800s, what is it now in 2023? I remember in school days, in the parish that I was brought up in, run by Benedictines, there were 6 or 7 monks, it oscillated, and one was Don Kevin, who actually instructed me for a while when I was becoming a Catholic. He became prior eventually of the small community, which was under Ampleforth, and he was a great preacher. So much so that I'd oftentimes stay for the conventual mass, because there were masses they were all the time happening in that big church. But the conventual mass was at 9:15, after they'd sung the office before. And then I'd stay as long as the sermon, because there was a sermon every day, and then go out discreetly. And I remember now, years later, the sermons he preached. And I'll give you this one because, especially for the little people, this is the bit they remember. It applies to this gospel. He went on like this. He always had some kind of story. Well, that's all right, really possible. I was going down the box the other day. I noticed these huge, gigantic gas cylinders, gas cylinders. I mean, all the gas of the south of Wales was stored here. I noticed how, according to the pressure in these huge cylinders, the gas cylinder would go up and down, up and down, up and down. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I could sit on the top of one of these gas cylinders and go up when it went up and down when it came down? Why? Because on the top, I could see the whole of the Vale of Glamorgan and have the long view of things, and then and only then come down to the next lamppost. Brethren, have the long view of things, and on he went. It's something that we can take with us, my friends. Otherwise, we're always in this, and we can't have the greater view, which is eternity. But I want to zoom also into this part of the gospel which concerns us all, the listening part. When I was there for 3 hours in the Divine Liturgy, all in Greek, I was profoundly moved, because even though it wasn't under the same jurisdiction, it was under the same Lord, and the same Lord was present, and I felt it. And something happened which I've never forgotten. Over those 3 hours, I could sense here is a space where all the world is far away. I am alone in a cloud where there's a presence which I can feel. I can hear, I can be moved. And I learned afterwards there was a word for it in Greek. It's hesychia, silence, which is a whole monastic discipline of switching off and becoming receptive. Do we do it? Because I can tell you, my friends, unless we do our part, we will not know the voice of God. We will have human voices and our own until we die. But there was a link. Over the years, I learned this lesson, which I want to finish with. It's that the soul that practices hesychia, listening in silence, also becomes a very good antenna for picking up other souls. Why? It's exactly the same inner dynamic of reception. There is a difference between a radio and a telephone. You listen to the radio, it's output. But on the telephone, there is output and input. And the quality of the output and the input are interrelated. There are some who cannot conduct a conversation, conversari, to turn around together. They're always in a monologue. They're talking at. They're heavy going. Just only actually yesterday hit me again how true it is. They came to the door, the prior of Silverstream, because I know his monastery well, Flavini, and we had, after confession, we had a chat, lubricated by Italian coffee, which makes one buzz very well. And I made a blunder. You know that when we are excited about seeing someone, what happens? We start to spout. We are joyful and we can't stop talking. Is it not true? Well, it happened to me. I was so glad to hear him and to catch up on the latest bit of news from France, the whole monastic circuit, which I knew very well. So I was pumping him. But I made a blunder. We got to one monastery I knew very well, actually in England, and I started to spout about all I knew about it. And I could see that he was trying to tell me something I didn't know, but I carried on talking. And to this moment, I don't know what good juicy bit I missed. Take the hint. Stop talking. And remember the wise owl. There was an old owl who sat on an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. Oh, were not I like that wise old bird?
Proptes nostre salută. Crucifixum Messia pro nobis, sub Pontio Pilato, asus sepultus est, et ascendit in celum, sed ex sanctes terra